Okay, good evening, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to the daily session that I have been doing since Laurel has not been able to post uh, the email to the to our social media. So while she's out, what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be just kind of coming on and just talking about a few things, specifically, with respect to what you're trying to do with your PLR, specifically also if you're really looking to and being serious about building out your learning center and really taking some steps in order to see that this happens. And so let's just do a few things. I want to talk a little bit about just some of the fundamentals that we've been talking about of e-learning playbook, and just to go over them again. I know you've probably heard me say this, but I want to make sure that these things are clear, over and over again. What are we talking about? We're talking about a video specific strategy. So while you may have a lot of PLR that you can use in order to build around this, we're basically talking about, building a niche based Netflix or something that we can use all the video content, at least that you have from us, and any other business related video that you have. You're going to put all those videos in one place. I don't want you to get caught up in the where. You can use anything that you can put together. And I did that, I think, in the last part of e-learning playbook, where we really talked about, you know, different ways that you can build it with your existing tool. So you should not feel like I've got to use a specific tool in order to do it. The basis is that people can come to one place, pay you monthly, and then you continue to add to that one place. So in other words, it really is like Netflix. They go to your video learning center. They then, they've paid you monthly, and basically what they're doing is they are accessing vital content on a regular basis. And so you are going to build around this content uniquely. You should have PLR from us, and I'm pretty sure that content is going to be reliable, so that, not only you're not going to get any trouble, you're going to have solid content that people can rely on, that they can actually go and use. They can watch this over the shoulder video, but you should also be building around that content uniquely. You should be putting some things that are niche specific. You should be putting some things in there that are going to be personal, that people cannot get elsewhere. I mean, that's really part of the basis of e-learning playbook. Here's the problem with e-learning playbook that I have found, and the problem with any business model that's like this, is that it's not exciting. And so basically, if you if you're really going to really do this, it's really built to be profitable. It's meant to be consistent. You're generating continuity. It's probably not going to be exciting until you get to a point where you're building that unique content yourself. But basically, when you're putting it together and you're trying to get people to look at your offer, it's not going to be all that exciting. And so I think that really kind of gets people. And so when they see something that really looks exciting, they move on to something else, because building a video learning center really does take discipline. It requires consistent work. So in other words, you've got to get all your video in there. You've got to get it labeled. It's got to be categorized. It's got to be ordered. It's not an impossible task, but it does have to be done. It's not apparent when it's going to take off. So in other words, you really don't have a gauge as to when people are going to say this is a fantastic offer, because you're going to be working on that offer until it's right. And obviously you don't want to make it so that the offer is going to be too low, but you do want to make it so that it's accessible, so that people see the value. And when they see the value, they say, yeah, that's a reasonable price to pay monthly. I'm going to pay monthly. And when they see that you're adding to it on a monthly basis, they're going to be satisfied enough to keep it. That's really what you're trying to do. But what are the enemies, though, of this business model? Enemies of continuity. That's what I want to talk about really tonight. There's some enemies that will keep you from doing this. I mean, obviously, when you see a new business model, and I'm not talking about anyone in particular, but what happens is you see something new, you buy a new angle or new something. And so you kind of feel like, I need to fit this in. Here's a great system. Here's a great thing. I can kind of stack this on to the learning center business model. And what happens is people kind of get away from making sure their videos are in there, making sure they're making offers and getting people in front of the learning center. It is a very simple business model. And if you start trying to fit other things into it, what happens is it stops being a simple business model, and it stops being a consistent way in order to get continuity. So again, That can be an enemy of this whole process. Creating inconsistent content. So in other words, you're going to attract the right people to that initial offer. You're only going to be able to do that if you are consistent with the content. But again, if you're putting content inside the learning center, you're going to have content to share with people. And so if you're acquiring content or you're creating content on a regular basis, this should not be a problem. Inconsistent launching. So in other words, that you are not getting those front end products. Because again, the business model is that you're going to make a front end offer, you're going to upsell them into the learning center. Now, again, that might not be your preferred way, but you do have to launch consistently because people are going to be attracted into different windows. So in other words, some people are going to look through the window, they're going to see LinkedIn or social media. They're going to say, oh, well, they've got other social media in there. I want to sign up. Some people are going to walk in there, they're going to see something on traffic. They're going to look through the window and they're going to say, oh, well, you know what? That's what I want. I want other stuff on traffic as well, all the other stuff. But you've got to keep launching these different satellite offers in order to get those people in. You got to make consistent offers. So in other words, you've got to continue to put that funnel together over and over again until you start getting people into it. Inconsistent list building. So in other words, part of what you need to be doing is teaching on a regular basis. That's not going to happen without a list, right? And so you're gonna be building, a consistent list. And then probably the thing that I think happens most, and I'm not immune to myself, is really seeing a new piece of software and thinking it's going to fit into what you're going to try to be doing with the learning center. And you got to be careful not to start buying lots of software and lots of stuff that have a business model attached to it that you're just going to kind of shoehorn into it, or you're going to tack it on. All it's really going to do is it's going to force you to take more time away from building out your learning center and driving people to it and figuring out what the offer is going to be. Sometimes we have too many software tools. In other words, we've got so many that we don't even know quite what to use, and there are new ones coming out and we're getting them and we don't know quite which one to put in motion. That really does happen to people. And if you have too many tools and you're acquiring tools, you will not complete the business. You will not complete your learning center. I can almost guarantee you will not. Um, but most of the time, it's that when we do acquire something, it tends to be too new for us to know whether or not it's going to fit in or not. So we've got to take time with it. And whenever you get a new tool, software or otherwise, you're going to have to change your process. So basically, everything that you've been doing to build your learning center, to build continuity offer, you're now going to have to change that process based on the software. And so the question is always going to be whether or not you can take that time. And if you take that time away, will you recoup that time in profit? Right? There's an opportunity cost. Anytime you decide to do something and you decide to walk away from something, that's time you could have been spending on what you were already working on. It's an opportunity cost. Now, if it ends up being that the time you spend away from it ends up being a lever or ends up being something that gives you more profit, wonderful, right? But many times, and I know this to be true, happens to, in particular, the online information marketers, in particular, we take time away from the thing that we were working on in order to go chase something else. And I use the word chase, it has a negative connotation, and I mean it to be negative. We go chase something else, and then we eventually come back to the business model we were working on, but we're a little disoriented because we lost momentum. That's an opportunity cost, and that's something that you can't get back. And so you've got to be really careful about getting software with the intention of fitting it into a business model where you're really trying to put something in place that's going to be consistently driving you people and driving you people that pay you monthly fees, right? So if it requires consistency before you get a single customer. It really does. It requires you to have a level of consistency before you have a single member, because that's really what. And there's something, I don't want to say mystical, but when you start putting the processes in place and you're consistent in how you get the people to find out about your offer, you're going to be able to keep the same processes to continue to build your list, to continue to get people in front of the offer. But until you develop a consistency in terms of driving the people to the initial offer, then you will never you will never develop a steady stream of people who are going to say yes. There's going to be a percentage of people who will see your offer for the Learning Center and say, nope, don't want to do anything monthly. There are going to be certain people who will just say, I don't see enough value there. And so you're going to be tweaking that offer and working on it. You're going to be some people who will say yes right away, right? They'll see the value that you're offering, but you can't get there until you have a consistent, steady stream of people. And you can't do that without a consistent level of effort. And so fitting in new software is always going to be an enemy of that process. And you've got to be careful. And so you've got to make sure that when you decide, okay, I'm going to get this software, you can't just get software just to have it. Even if it sits on your hard drive and you don't do anything with it, it's taking up headspace. It's taking up mental recovery space that you really need to focus on in terms of driving people to your learning center. And so you've got to be careful about these things, in particular, when you start getting new tools where you're going to have to learn something new. All right. Okay, so just so that you'll know, Kevin's LinkedIn PLR, you can pick that up at theplrshow.com/Kevin F. And so we've got some bonuses over there for you to be able to use. Okay, so if there are no questions, I am going to take off. I don't mean for these to be very long. Just want to kind of pop in here while Laurel is out. Hope that this has been helpful for you. Let me know in the comments. Have a great day, a great night, and a pleasant tomorrow. Take care.